we go. Okay, we are live, and we are live with our very special guest star, the very gorgeous Merphy from Merphy Napier Reviews. Is it reviews? I think it's reviews because you've got a couple
of books now. I've changed it a couple. Yeah, who's just.
But either way, you read many things, and you have just finished Dresden. So, would you like to introduce yourself perhaps a little more properly?
Well, thank you, Derry. My name is Merphy. I've been reading through Dresden. It's something that I never thought that I would read initially, but especially because of the reputation that Dresden sometimes gets from not fans, from people who have tried the series and bounced off of it quickly. It made me think, oh, I'll hate it. But a good friend of mine told me, absolutely not, you must read this. So I did, and she should be in the chat. I'm pretty sure she'll be here any minute now. So I was convinced to read it, and I was just, oh man, Anita's not here. What a shame.
Oh, honestly,
there's
it's such
Lynn.
a shame.
Lynn's
Hi, Lynn. Welcome. I will say thank you to Thano, who was here first, who is always here. So thank you for joining. We've got Jared.
And I was blown away. Hey, Jared. I was blown away by the characters. Oh, my goodness. Just
absolutely
fell in love with the series. By book 3, I was completely sold. And I've just finished, and I have the worst memory in the whole wide world. So
that's why I tried to grab you early. And yes, Shadia's another one that always makes it. And who have we got here?
Here's one of mine.
Oh, now this is one of your people because I don't recognize this person.
Yes.
So, but yeah, welcome to the channel. So fair warning for everybody, because this is such a tiny wee place, I'm very much full spoilers. So if you aren't up to date with Dresden, I might find a banner actually that says spoilers. Here we go. There we go. It makes me feel a bit better. Is that full spoilers means we can literally jump around as much as we need to without trying to make a point and not be too specific, which makes the conversation quite awkward. So where have we got? Jake is, of course, who I was about to say blame. I thank you for getting me into Dresden properly. And you stopped listening to changes to watch this. If it was your first time, I would tell you to go back to it, Jake, but I know that.
Oh, okay.
You're fine.
Okay. I was about to say, you don't want to be here.
No, Jake has read this more times than me, which is saying a lot because I've read it more than most people because I think I'm on my 6th or 7th reread now.
Wow.
And Joseph's just finished reading Death Masks, excited for 12 months. I'm excited.
Anita wants to know if there's male gaze or not.
Anita is a bit of a worry for me because there are things that I've thought she will love in the past, and she's bounced off very, very hard. So I'm not actually sure, Anita, how you will go with Dresden. The characters are strong, though. Almost, well, actually, no. He's in my top 5 series, Dresden, because the characters are great and because so many of them are strong women, which seems to go contrary to the pop culture view of Dresden as being very male gazy. The women are, just beautiful accessories, and yet they're actually pretty amazing. So earlier today in New Zealand time, so probably late night in America, I was having a discussion on one of the many discords about the final scene of Proven Guilty. Proven Guilty is book, tell me if I'm wrong, Jake, I think it's 9.
I thought it was 8.
8 or 8. And is the one where we discover that Molly has a gift and Harry ends up having to take her on as an apprentice. And there is a scene at the end of Proven Guilty that very many people have a problem with. And the conversation got long-winded on Discord, and we ended up going round and round in circles. The scene is Harry prepares for a situation he knows exists. and that Molly has had a crush on him for years and is going to throw herself at him. He's already told her he's not interested. She goes to get ready to be an apprentice. So she goes and she showers and she puts on the apprentice robe. But when she comes out, she pretty much says, I'll give you anything to teach me. Strips off and pretty much just offers herself. At which point he dumps a jug of ice water all over her. Now, explained like that, it's not too egregious. But this is a scene written by Jim Butcher. And so we get some very lingering descriptions of what Molly looks like and every possible thing we don't need to know about the way she looks, including piercings and tattoos.
This is his best friend's daughter, by the way, who's like 17.
And he's known her since she was a little girl.
He's known her since she was in a training bra, which he says over and over and over again before this scene.
That's right. And so this is where a lot of the uncomfortableness, the ick, this is where the ick comes from. Where is this, I loved your word that you mentioned earlier, is this indulgent in a sexual way? And is it inappropriate for the scene that is being written about? So we briefly touched on it before we went live. What are your thoughts on the scene, either how it's written, how Harry deals with it, how Molly deals with it, in terms of the text versus the characters? Where do you sort of sit with that?
Yeah, I have many. Oh, there's Sandbun. He's one of mine too. I have many thoughts on this on this scene. So, starting with the positive, for the purposes of, you know, Molly. So Molly has a very understandable crush on someone that she sees as someone that can help her, can lead her out of this really desperate situation that she's been in, someone that protects her. You know, kids develop crushes on people much older than them. It's a thing that happens. And she is young still. And she's trying so hard to grow up so fast, and she's so desperate at this point in her life. So from her perspective, I understand the state of mind she's in when she does this. Still don't agree with, you know, just stripping down in front of him instead of like having a conversation. From his perspective, well, rather, I'll say from the purposes of the scene perspective, I appreciate that this is Harry not being gentle anymore and saying, you're gonna have water dunked on your head if you don't listen. Like, I said no, it's gonna be a no. And I like him drawing a very harsh line with her in this scene because that's what she needed. The boundary that he drew is great.
Yeah.
What I don't like, and I will use the word again that I used backstage before we started. What I don't like is Butcher's tendency to be very indulgent. He wants to show that Harry is denying temptation and he's choosing to be a better man than what his first instincts draw him towards. And that's great. Your internal dialogue being different from your actions, from your choice, is great to see on page. But Butcher likes to revel in things before he lets Harry deny the things. And so the very indulgent description of Molly's body before that, I think is tactless, especially at her age and especially with their different circumstances. On top of that, and you can remind me because I have a terrible memory, as we've already stated, I'm pretty sure there's dialogue that happens there, right? Like she's naked and then he's like, get on all fours, do this. Like, isn't that what happens? Doesn't he?
No. It's very much, she just strips off, she's on her knees and he's like,
why is she on her knees? Did she get on her knees or did he tell
her offering herself? And
so he did not instruct her to do anything. No. Okay.
No.
All right.
Close her eyes. There you go. That's the only thing he tells her to do.
All right. So that's fine. I couldn't remember exactly how it went down. I remember dialogue between them because I remember thinking, okay, if this scene happens and it drags on, because in my mind it was dragging on because of the indulgent descriptions.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like time is passing. So if someone walks in and sees this underage girl on her knees, naked, in front of this adult man in an apartment alone, he's getting arrested. Like, I'm sorry. It's not good. Maybe he should stop it sooner. And that was one of my problems, is that it felt like the scene went on longer than it needed to illustrate what Butcher was trying to illustrate. So I feel really mixed about the scene. I like the intention behind the scene, but I think that Butcher chooses to write scenes like this in a way that takes it just one step beyond, or sometimes more than one step beyond, what the scene actually needs. That was a lot of talking. What are your thoughts?
No, I like that. Because I agree with what you're saying. The intention behind the scene is very clear. The outcome of the scene is very clear. It's the lingering in the scene that is perhaps unnecessary. Something that I've been known to say in the past is, because I'm a bit of an apologist for this scene, and that he kind of needed Molly to push that hard for the denial to really hit her, because she spends a lot of this book throwing herself at Harry, and every single time he tells her the same thing. This is not going to happen, and she continues to push. For me, I might be an old and frumpy 50-year-old now, but I was once very young, and I was a bit of a wild child, and it's the sort of thing I would have done if I wanted a man. There's enough awareness, even in a woman that young, to know that for the most part, men can't really control themselves. And if I'm naked, I'm getting what I want. Yeah. And so there's an element, particularly in myself, because I really relate to Molly at that age, where she genuinely thinks, if I get naked, I'm going to get what I want here, because he's not going to be able to stop himself. And I think Harry knows that to some degree. And he's like, I have to let her keep pushing until she gets so embarrassed by the rejection that she stops doing it. So there's an element of embarrassment to stop her trying, because I think he knows she's going to keep trying. And because she's just played her ace, it's the only thing he can do to really make it clear to her. Do you know what? My blood might be moving, but that doesn't mean that my decision is. So I respect that element. But the lingering is the ick. There's reasons for it. Wonderful. I admire him tremendously as a character for having the internal monologue going, wow, she's actually really stunning, and going, but that doesn't make it okay. It's not okay. I'm not going to do this. We don't need to hear again where her piercings are. We don't need to hear again where her tattoo goes. We don't need to hear again that he's thought of piercings elsewhere. And it's that repetitive nature of that sexualization of this young woman that is the ick.
Yes.
And that's Jim Butcher thing, I think, rather than a character thing.
Yes, 100%. And Lynn, who's in the chat, that's what she said too when I was early on in the series, and I was talking about, Harry is this and Harry is that, and I was talking about his kind-heartedness and his thoughtfulness and his desire to do right by people, but also his internal monologue. Yeah. And Lynn kept telling me that's the difference between Butcher and Harry. And I denied her at first. I said, no, this is Harry. He's complicated. He's both. And later on in the series, I realized, no, this is actually Butcher. This is actually Butcher inserting this over and over and over again. And by the way, I like having a character that is very visual, very hungry, that is presented with a lot of opportunity or a lot of, stimulation, one might say. And that his first inclination is to respond to that desire, but he's practicing self-control, and he's saying who I am as a man is more important to me than having temporary desires met. I love that. I love that depiction. Yes. I just finished a series that did something very similar, and I love it. But the way Butcher does it is every prospect that's presented has to be re-described every time. And it's always in this very indulgent, very sexual, very long-winded way. And oftentimes, like, Butcher doesn't even mix up the descriptions. He just says the same thing over and over. And so I'm just like, you're not. Yeah, and it's like you're not adding anything. You're not giving me something new to think on. You just want to write it again. I'm just like, that's not helpful. Like, I don't get anything from that.
Yeah. We know Karen Merphy, she's a pistol. She's muscular, she's strong, she's like a gymnast. And we get told this every bloody book.
Even Nothing Charity changes. Is called a bombshell over and over and over again. Charity. Is that her name, Charity?
Yes, Michael's wife. Yeah. I love Charity. She's amazing.
Oh my goodness, me too. She's amazing. She's one of my favorites. Over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Lara. I think she's an amazing character. I don't need to be told 6 or 7 times per book how insanely gorgeous her skin is. I just don't. I don't. You know, yes, and her hair is luscious. I don't care. You told me once already. You don't have to keep reminding me.
Yes. And I mean, I hate to just go on and on, but there's certain writing tics that Butcher has. People always getting naked, whether it makes sense for the plot right now or not, so that we can describe it again. Or I remember taking issue with the love potion in book 2 because it's a love potion, but it acted as a lust potion instead. And I'm like, this could have been interesting. You know, like you could have done something interesting with her.
No,
what's that?
That Bob cheapened that recipe.
That's true. That's true.
Harry is making that recipe and he's like, I don't have any diamonds, Bob. And Bob's like, put $50 in there. We know it's really all about money. So Bob sort of cheapens what that potion would have been. And that makes me think that, and this kind of leads me into something else I wanted to discuss, is that Bob, I like Bob. Bob is entertaining. Very intelligent, obviously, spirit of intellect, fabulous concept. And he picks up attributes from his owners. And because later in the series we see him being used by Butters, and there isn't that creepy Lear factor when he's with Butters, that I believe comes from Harry.
Interesting.
But Bob has no morality. He doesn't have a conscience. He doesn't understand right and wrong, good or evil. So this is just something he explores to its fullest.
Sure.
And he's dirty old man perv. Which for me this is what Harry could be if he didn't show this self-control, this choice to be better than his instincts. So every now and then when Bob has control of a situation, whether Harry's unconscious again or whatever it is, where Bob makes decisions, he tends to go cheap and tasteless, let's say. But I think it's a way that Jim Butcher is trying to show that no, Harry is better than this. Look how bad it could be. But again, it's the lingering. We get Bob going on and on about tightness, and firmness, and past her peak.
And okay, but here's the thing, though. If Bob was the only one lingering, that would be totally different. If Harry were in his mind going there and then saying, but that's never mind. That's not where I'm gonna choose to expend my efforts. Yeah. Like if we saw him actually wrestling with it before, it's just that Butcher wants to live there for a long time before he lets Harry move on. Yes. Yeah. And if Bob did that, only Bob or primarily Bob, then it would feel different. But since
it would be clearer, I think.
Yeah.
That intent. Yeah. That was probably the only scene where I've really felt the ick is when Bob talks about she's in her prime now as this very young woman, and that from here it's all downhill. And I remember thinking, no, we don't want to be putting that this is the age of perfection on the page, because this is she's a child. Not okay, Bob. Not okay.
Yeah.
That was my point of ick. But
I agree with that. I really like Sandbun's observation, which is up a little bit, about the Molly scene, saying that it would have worked better if there weren't so many scenes similar to this before it. Not the same scene, but then it would have been more effective.
Yes. And this kind of ties into that. We've had the scene over and over in that book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we've had this scene over and over again and she hasn't heard the no, that we get the extreme. But it would have worked as effectively if we hadn't had it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder sometimes if, particularly earlier in the series, if Jim hasn't been aware that, no, you've made your point, you can stop now, or if it's just self-indulgent, where actually I quite like thinking about what she looks like.
I think, probably a balance of both. Truthfully, I think that Butcher is a repetitive writer in general with his descriptions.
Yes.
He doesn't vary the way he talks about something. He just says the same thing over and over again. Not like the story is extraordinary. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to bash the story. The story is extraordinary, but his descriptions are very copy and paste from book to book. So I think a lot of it is just that he falls back on the easy options sometimes.
Something I did a couple of weeks ago, knowing this was coming up, is, and it's one of the times I really wish I had them physically, because it would have been easier. And I was doing word searches of things in my Kindle. And there's remarkably few instances of the really egregious words, the sort of perky and boobs and firm. There's remarkably few. What I instead discovered was that he's very flowery in his descriptions about everybody. He spends as much page time describing the men as he does the women. And we get the same repetitiveness.
A lot. It is
we get
different.
The same repetitiveness. We get
yes.
We get Gentleman Johnny Marcone. God, I love him. He's such a great character. But he's described in every book with the same words, with the same descriptive terms, in as much detail as we get for the women. The differences aren't actually that many. They are still very physical. But with the men, we also get a statement of what kind of man they are. Protective, fatherly, determined. We get a different angle as well as the physical when he describes the men. But he takes just as much time to describe them. So it's an odd one for me. On balance, I don't really notice it so much anymore, because my eyes know I can skim this bit, because I've read this bit before several times.
It's the same thing.
Yes. I'm familiar with this description, Jim. I don't need to read it again. And I can, move on to an actual occurrence that's happening in the book and get into the story some more. And ultimately, I think it's because the women that he so lovingly describes are actually badasses. Like, for all that he makes them all beautiful, he also makes them all impressive.
Oh,
and I love
he
that.
rates women brilliantly.
Yeah. Like, these women are amazing women.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And that's the thing that kind of bums me out sometimes. And I totally respect anyone that bounces off the series because of the way women are described. Like,
yes,
as we've expressed, it's unrelenting in some books.
It really is. And it doesn't get better. You just get used to it.
No, it doesn't get better.
It just stops bothering you. You're like, whatever. Get to the next bit.
I'm not sure it ever stopped bothering me, but it did I got tired of complaining about it. So I was just like, whatever. It's Butcher, we move.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So,
And to be fair, the story itself is getting so much better.
Oh, it's so, yeah, there's so
that
much more to
prepared.
talk about than that. And it's kind of like it's the same problem in every book, basically. So like, am I gonna be as repetitive as Butcher talking about it, or am I just gonna talk about the new stuff, you know?
Okay, no, we did that bit now. Yeah.
Right.
Because there are so
that's
much
the thing,
good to talk about.
Yes, and that's the unfortunate thing. I get why people bounce off of it, but it's unfortunate because these women are extraordinarily written. Like, oh my goodness.
Yes.
As we said, Charity, incredible character. I'm questioning myself again. Is that actually her name?
Yes, Charity. One of the ways I remember is it's one of the virtues. And so
yes.
And it's Michael, who is one of the most charitable characters that we could possibly know. And I say that in an emotional sense. He's very forgiving. He's very open. He's very charitable to everybody he meets. So Michael and Charity.
Yes. And her issues with Harry make complete sense. You know, she's such a layered character who has there's so much on her that she's carrying and that she's worrying over and that she's managing, and her frustration with Harry, but then her also willingness to, you know, chop vegetables and talk to him and work through it and call him family and be there for him. It's like unbelievable. Molly too.
I admire her tremendously.
Yes,
because
Molly, we talk about.
has that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you please. Molly was saying. I just was saying that Charity, I think in kind of the same way as Harry, has chosen to go, no, I can be better than this. I don't like you because you put my husband at risk, but I can see that my husband likes and trusts you for these reasons that I can see exist. But because you put my husband at risk, I don't like you. I'm going to choose to try and get over that. But I'm finding it hard. But you see her trying. She tries really hard.
She does.
I admire that a lot in Charity.
And she's strong. My goodness. When she is ready to fight, whew, no stopping.
She's the ultimate mama bear.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
Molly, we talk about a lot in context to Harry, but in her own right, she's so strong. Like, she's so resilient. And we meet her as a kid, as this headstrong kid that's trying to grow up too fast. And I feel a lot of compassion for her because I'm very invested in the teens in my life. I'm like, please come into my home. Like, let me protect you. Let me counsel you. Let me help you make good decisions. You know, like, I'm just like,
it's on the auntie and you might listen. Yeah.
Yes. I care so deeply about being, because that's what my parents were to my friends when I grew up. A lot of kids that I ran with had difficult home lives, and my parents were just like, great, we're your second home.
Doors open.
Be here anytime. And so, like, then now that's, as an adult, that's who I try to be for the kids in my life. And so I see Molly and I'm just like, come, let me make you dinner. Like, let's talk. Let's work this out, you know, because I just see a teen that needs counsel. And so I love her dynamic with Harry because he's being that for her, despite all the weird stuff, like despite all the other things, he's that for her, and it's what she needs. And her journey and what she's tied up in now, like, there's so much going on in her life, and she's so strong while still being anchored to her parents.
And Harry makes a good point. You know, this relationship with your parents, this that gave you all of this strength, this rooted sense of who you are, came from your parents. Keep it tight, and this is what will get you through. And we do see her as in the times where she pulls away from her family. That's when she struggles the most. That's when she feels the most isolated and the most at risk. And when she, you know, falls back to her mum and she falls back to her dad, okay, she has bickers at home, but you see her become so much stronger outside the home. Yeah. Because she is accepted and she is loved for who she is rather than being feared, which has now become the fallback. When she's not at home, people fear her. She's scary now.
It's powerful. She's so powerful. And now she has a lot of the same struggles as Harry does, as far as, all this temptation and all this outside stuff that's influencing her. And she has to practice that self-control. She has to be the one that anchors herself and chooses, who am I going to be? And am I going to let, as Harry put it, let my soul get run through a meat grinder until it's unrecognizable? Like, she's having that same struggle right now, which again, makes their relationship so valuable. Go ahead.
Because he does tell her, this is what you've got to hang on to. This is what will keep you as human as possible. All of these changes mean your humanity is that much further away. For you to hang on to it as long as you can, you have to keep this relationship solid. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's what this relationship with Michael and Charity is for Harry. He doesn't have his mum and his dad. He doesn't have siblings. He's got Thomas, but he met Thomas as an adult. Michael has been with him since he was a young man. And maturing into an adult, like a proper adult, with Michael guiding, advising, supporting, trusting, all of those things, that is where Harry finds his safe space. We see it when he realizes he doesn't know what he's doing. I need help. He goes to Michael because that's the safe place. This is where I can go. And he won't judge me, and he won't turn me out. He will hear me, and he will tell me I've got my head stuck up my ass. It's an honest, trusting relationship that I think is very core.
I agree. Their relationship is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I think that's one reason why the Molly scene bothers a lot of people too, is because it almost feels like a betrayal of that friendship. Like, Michael puts a lot of trust in Harry, and deservedly so. So we don't want to watch Harry then look at Michael's kid that way.
That's right. Even though, as we just pointed out, he isn't necessarily. He's very aware that this isn't okay. Yeah. And I don't want to do this. And what I find quite funny is, of course, later on when she becomes the Winter Lady and it's still a secret from her parents, and Harry's like, oh, she hasn't told you the thing. Oh, okay. And we figure out from context that Michael at this instance believes they have entered into a relationship, and it's fine. And for the same reason, I think Michael has trusted Harry with his daughter. He's trusted that he will treat my daughter with respect. At the point of the series where the other thing happens, she's now a woman. And Michael's like, well, she's a woman. I can't really get involved in that.
Sure.
And he trusts Harry to know where the boundaries are, could be. Yeah. Almost more than Harry does.
Oh, for sure, more than Harry does. Harry doesn't trust himself at all to know boundaries.
No. And I've learned to trust Michael.
Yes.
Yes. If Michael trusts Harry on something, I can trust Harry on it.
He has certainly earned it. And, I don't know. How did you feel about Merphy's scene in the most recent book? How did you feel about her?
I think, obviously I wanted to do damage to Jim in that moment. I didn't see it coming because I tend not to read in that way. I just let the story come at me and then think about it. Yes. So it was only after that I was like, oh yeah, that was actually foreshadowed quite a lot. But in the moment, the first time I read that, I was like, oh, how very dare you. How very dare you. I was very angry. And yet, at this point in Harry's journey, I think it's necessary. He is, we've seen it through the whole series. He sticks with things. He's almost autistic to some degree in that need for things to not change. I'm going to have the same card, same flat, same everything. And by being in a relationship with Karen would have continued his need to hang on to something that's the same and resist change. And I think at this point in the story, because everything else has been pulled out from under him one way or another, he needs to have no ties to be able to step into the fact that he is going to outlive everybody. He does need to reassess how he interacts with people, because he is going to get really badly hurt if he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's going to get attached to people. That's who he is. But he also needs to learn that I can't invest everything in anyone because I'm going to live so much longer. I've got these things that I have to deal with that are on such an epic scale that normal be with someone till we die just isn't on the cards for Harry. So it was necessary, I think, for me.
So what does that look like for future relationships?
Well, this is where, I'm on the fence with it, with him and Molly endgame, because she's also going to have this extended lifespan. I don't really want to see them together, but I do think they are going to be seen as a unit for a long time because they're friends. In the same way as Harry and Karen were for so long. We're just really good friends. We've known each other a long time. We trust each other. It doesn't need to be a sexual relationship, but it doesn't mean we don't love each other. I see that for however many books for quite a while with he and Molly. Whether it develops beyond that, I don't know. Maybe after however many books, I become okay with it because time flies and now they're both a couple hundred years old. Who knows?
Well, I mean, he's going to be married to Laura anyway, so what does it matter?
And that's what I'm saying. But then there's Lara, who I actually adore. I think she's up there as one of my favorites. And Harry intrigues her on a level that not very many people do. And I like that she likes him and she sees him far more deeply than a lot of other people do. I think it would actually be a healthy relationship between them because she's powerful enough in her own right to hold her own with him. And I'm looking forward to this next book, this 12 months, because one of the things happening within that 12 months is this courtship and this need to be married at the end of it. So I'm hoping to see a lot of Lara in that because she's fabulous.
Yeah, I agree. She is fantastic. I'm really okay with Harry and Laura becoming a thing for all the reasons you said. And just in general, I think that it would be fun to see these two, have a lot of friction, be irritated, trying to figure out how to deal with this terrible setup that they have. And then eventually be like, you know what? I'm kind of okay with you. I kind of want you to be around. Maybe don't. Maybe let's don't, if they break it off, if it somehow works out that they're not under contract anymore. And then they're just like, do you?
Yeah, we don't have to get married now, but this could maybe still be a thing.
I'm not done talking, I think that would be fun. The Molly thing, my issue with the Molly thing is I would be so down because I like their chemistry right now as it is. My big hiccup is that we've known her since she was a child and we've watched her grow up and Harry brings up her training bra constantly. So I'm just like, it's not grooming, but it feels too close.
It's borderline.
It feels too close to it. And I don't want that in a series that I love. I don't want that just looming over things. I'd rather him just find someone else. If we had to know her as a child and watch her grow up, let's just not.
The other thing to consider too with Molly, and this is something a lot of people overlook, is as the Winter Lady, she can't. We see this in the short story with Ramirez. And so there's some degree, unless something dreadful happens to Mab and Molly becomes the Winter Lady, this isn't an option at the moment.
Not right now. Not as things are.
Yeah. So having that limit for me is a bit sort of safety blanket-ish. Like, okay, well, it can't for however many foreseeable books, because at this point, Mab is all powerful and she's looking pretty secure. So
she does,
at this point,
which great female character. Oh my goodness. The more I get to know Mab, the more I'm like, not only are you a force to be reckoned with and like fierce and terrifying, but there's a lot.
Depth.
There's a lot there. Yeah, that we have only begun to uncover.
And it's exciting. I'm really thinking we're gonna get more. It's like, oh, like it's like, oh, it's very delicious. Yes. I actually have goosebumps saying that, because we know there's history. We know that her children are halflings. So was it when she was still human that she had these children, or did she take a mortal lover for these children? Either way, who is their father? I need to know. There's elements to her backstory that
I'm half wondering if
so many stories there. I think there might be Merlin's children. I could be wrong, but Merlin is such a big part of her backstory. Ethnu teases her with it, that she loved Merlin. It's sort of a throwaway comment. How serious was this love? Or is it a parallel to an apprentice love for her master that we get with Molly and Harry? We don't know. It's intriguing. I'm excited to find out, because I think we will eventually.
I think we will. Yes, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Mab is quite literally my second favorite character in the series.
Yeah. Oh, Jake is quite right. I mean, she is phenomenal. There we go. Yeah. And I think this is one of these long-term storylines that we've seen.
Like if that happened at the end. Yes. Paher mentioned earlier that he would be okay with an epilogue with Harry and Molly. Yeah. Like we don't actually watch it. It's just kind of a footnote.
I'd be okay with that.
I would too. Yeah. And I could see that happening because Mab's not leaving right now. So to see her come to an end, to see Molly rise, and then we get the epilogue.
Yeah. I mean, part of it for me too is the what was I going to say there? We've seen it hinted at in particular in Battleground, where Mab actually says to Harry, if I fall, you have to kill Molly, because she's not ready to be the Winter Lady. So the Winter Queen. So the foreshadowing, if you like, the thought of Molly taking on that role has already been put in place as something that Mab thinks about. So this has sort of opened the potential for that, if you like, in the story already. And I love that. I really love that.
Do you think it's possible that Merphy would come back as Valkyrie, and that could potentially open the door for her and Harry again?
I don't know how it would happen, because we have been told with the story so far, she can't. While people remember her, she can't. That's one of the structural rules, if you like, around the Valkyrie and the Einherjaren. So either something so extreme and extraordinary happens that they break all the rules to bring as many as possible to the field, or we don't see Merphy and she remains this angel, if you like, from Harry's past that continues to guide him, because we'll be hearing her voice in his head for many books to come.
Absolutely, we will. The reason I ask is because that's one that I feel has been heavily foreshadowed, her being a Valkyrie. Yes. And we do have that promise over Harry's life that he'll die alone. And so I've been wondering. One
of my other loved fandoms is Firefly, and every single time I read that line, I have Mal from Firefly go, "Everyone dies alone."
Oh, I don't know Firefly, but that's probably true. Everyone dies alone.
I will gush at you later about Firefly. There's a, and that kind of takes away the power from that, because dying alone, again, everyone dies alone. You know, nobody shares your death.
Sure.
You're there on your own. So, like a lot of prophecy, how much of it becomes self-fulfilling?
Well,
is he
my
going
thought
to
is it possible that there's going to be some sort of erasure of his understanding of the people around him, or even like his knowing them? Like, I'm not trying to say memory loss because that sounds corny, but I am trying to say memory loss. So if he forgets her and then she returns and then they fall in love again, I could see that working. Of course, why would everyone else
would?
Okay, tell me.
Because it's their situation and closeness as being relatively powerless that grew with Harry's gift. And I think if they met at a later point, at different points in their paths, there just isn't enough point of connection for them to be part of each other's lives.
But she would be different too.
Yeah. But she would be different too. That's what I'm saying, is that their youth, the events that pulled them together, those are the things that created their relationship, was having to fight the battle together and being up against everything together.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case if that happens in the future. It will be, okay, yeah, we're both up facing the same enemy, but we're not alone facing these things against the enemy.
Yes.
So I can't see the relationship forming the same way, ultimately. So, and I don't know if it would be possible to find the same level of love and companionship that they did finally in Beast
Maybe
Books.
Susan comes back.
And this is,
that would be great.
See, here's another thing. Sorry, talking about the whole Harry and Merphy and Kincaid. We know Kincaid is a halfling. We know he's part fae and part human. We don't know what kind of fae. And he's scary. I want to know what kind of fae. He has a backstory where he knows Ebenezer. What's his backstory? Jim has done such a good job in tempting us with little bits of history of characters and giving us this potential for more conflict to come. And there's just so many little head-to-heads I want to see again. I want to see Kincaid come up against Ebenezer again. I want to see that. You know, I want to find out about the why did Mavra, why did Mavra want the Book of the Dead or Damned, the book of Kimler's book, the Word of Kimler? Why did she want it?
I don't know.
Was that how she got Dracula's father, Druckle, to come during the events of Battleground? But even then, he says, this isn't part of the Battleground thing. I'm doing my own thing that just happens to coincide. What's that all about? We find out he's Starborn. He's Starborn.
What's that all about?
I know. And he says specifically, and I love it because there's so much potential in it, they haven't told you what they bred you for.
Yeah.
I have questions.
I know.
So many questions.
I know.
Are we talking the White Council? Are we talking the High Council of the White Council? Are we just talking the Merlin and Ebenezer? Are we just talking Ebenezer? Are we talking somebody else completely? Because are we talking they bred you from his mother and the Thomas's dad?
Oh, yeah.
Were they the ones that planned it? Because who knows? What happened to his dad? We get hinted very heavily. Wasn't an accident. He was killed.
I don't know.
Questions.
I am not a theorizer on this level, so I am just appreciating all your questions.
It's one of those, and this is partly why I love rereading so much, because I get to notice all of the things that aren't part of the main narrative. I get to notice things that are just put in there.
Yes.
There are definitely things that you think, I don't need to know this. So it's been put there for a reason.
Right.
That means I need to think about it.
And we've had time.
And now I'm going to think about it. You know, and it's wonderful because, yes, he has his quirks that can lean into the ick. Yes. But his gift as a writer has definitely improved. You can see his improvement from the early books.
100%.
It becomes exponential, the quality of the writing. And yet he's clearly had some threads of the story in mind since very early. Because you go back and read and you're like, oh, so many of these storylines had started back then that we just didn't notice until it came to a head.
Like, and I'm sure you see a lot more of that, having reread it several times. Which, I mean, I've only read once, and there are several things that I look back on that I'm just like, man, that there was a lot there that I just didn't see initially.
Yeah, there's so much potential in this story, and the way that it's grown is, I think, a testament to Jim's talent. That it starts very easy. It's really easy. It's a noir detective. He happens to be a wizard. A little bit of magic. You know, there's one enemy who's just a guy with some magic. Okay, there's a little bit of white council, and every single book brings in a little bit more of the unusual and the supernatural and the weird. So we get to a point where almost all of our characters aren't human. But it's such a gradual story that it's easy to forget that you're not reading urban fantasy anymore. You're reading epic fantasy.
100%.
We've got fairy queens. We've got gods and goddesses. We've got creatures from other species. We've got interdimensional beings. We've got it.
And it's all huge. So tangled together. Yeah, there's so much there to keep track of.
That's right. He's given it to you just slowly enough that you can keep up and you can remember who everyone is.
Yes. And everyone's so distinct and the roles that they play. So as characters like Marcone continue to elevate, you're just like, oh no. Like, I know who you are and what you're capable of, and oh no.
The moment in Battleground when we get the revelation that he's picked up a coin. I had my Kindle in my hand and went, oh fuck. I know. We are in so much shit.
So much trouble.
That's so much power. I was like, oh my God, we are just, no. It blew my mind because we do know Johnny and we know who he is. Yes. You know, again, the repetitiveness that Jim gives us. We've had the soul gaze. We know he's this determined guy. We know he's not going to back down. And now he has a power. Now, and it's not a little one. Thorn Namshiel is a big Denarian.
I know. It's bad time for all of us. That's exactly it. What's that?
It's just, oh my God, that's terrifying.
Oh yeah, I know. But it's going to be so interesting though.
I can't wait. And it's unbelievably that he's got this antagonist at a home, if you like, who has powered up with him so that he can remain an antagonist at home. You know, Dresden hasn't grown beyond him.
And Harry is not done growing either. So, no, that's right. I mean, I really do feel like there's so much opportunity for where Butcher takes it.
There really is. And I like this question from Joseph. Do we think we can take down Nicodemus from the inside? Nicodemus is, again, another one of my favorite characters. Jake is doing another reread, and he's like, I always can't, I get to this point and can't decide if Small Favor or I can't even think now. Death Masks is my favorite. And for me, I'm like, of the two, and I'm like, one of them has Marcone and Nicodemus. Duh.
What more can you ask for?
That's like, you know, these are the characters that are going to make a book shine.
Yes.
And Nicodemus tells us very early that he has a long-term objective.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what that objective is.
Mm-hmm.
We also get told that the angels in particular are predestined. So these fallen angels, is that also predestined? Does that mean that Nicodemus' endgame is predestined? I don't know.
Interesting.
But it's fascinating to think about.
Yes.
You know,
so many things that you bring up that I'm like, man, I haven't even thought about that. Like, I've been so focused on the main narrative, and there's all these little things that I'm just like, wow.
Well, this is the joy. And for me, this is why rereading, I think, is something that I think a lot of people should try more often.
Yeah.
Because you very, very quickly find out how good an author is. If there's more beyond that main narrative, it's worth it.
Yes.
You'd be surprised how few books you feel like they're really rich and they've got so much to give you, but you read them again and you're not actually learning anything extra. You're not picking up any extra threads. There's really not that much more to the story.
Right.
I love rereading Dresden because I keep picking up new things and I keep seeing more things that Butcher has put in these books that are going to lead somewhere or have given something that has since happened more depth. And for me, if a series can handle a reread, it's a better series than others.
Definitely.
For me to continue to reread, this is a really good series because I'm not bored with it yet. You know, I'm still finding things. I haven't picked every little bit out of every little corner. It's still really good. That it's made it to 6 rereads. It's in my top 5.
Yeah. How many more books do we have with Dresden?
Jake can tell us. But there's a I think at least another 5 to come. I know the next one is 12 months. I know that the last 3 books are going to be a bit like Peace Talks and Battleground, and that it's just one big story, one big trilogy.
Okay.
The final thing,
Gotcha.
But I don't know how many in full. And I'm kind of okay not knowing.
Sure. It does feel like it needs at least 5 more.
Yeah.
But I would accept 7, 8 more. 25
Joseph reckons
plus
25.
I think she'd like One Piece. Sandbun.
I have a ways to go. But I was doing 22 case books and then the Apocalyptic Trilogy. So, 25 we're looking at.
And we're on.
Which could expand because...
I'm not trying to be rude.
Fine.
So that would... What are we on now? 18? Is that right?
17. 18? 17. 17. Because 12 months will be 18.
Okay, yeah. So we've got loads of time. Good. I'm glad because I would be sad if Butcher was going to try to wrap this up in 3 more books. I think it needs...
I think he's built too many story threads to even try and do it in anything less. We actually have a very broad idea of what each remaining book will be. Yeah, but please don't tell me, Jake. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to know this far in advance either.
With the amount of theorizing I'm capable of just with what I've got, if I had an idea what future books would be, I would spoil them for myself because I would theorize them into being in my head and then the book would do something different.
That's why I stay away from too heavy. Like if I see something foreshadowed, then I'm happy to follow that thread. But I try to stay away from too heavy theorizing because very quickly we can create our own narrative. And then whatever is produced, it's not our narrative. And so it's like you have to readjust your whole framework. And I think sometimes that can ruin it for people.
I like having the questions. I don't need the answers. I don't want to necessarily work out answers. But I like reading to the point where I know what questions I need to be asking. I know the story well enough to go, I haven't had an answer to this thing. I've looked.
That was clearly important.
And it's not there.
Yeah, that was clearly important. So I am remembering it, even though you haven't said that much.
Yeah, and I'm happy for that to be left open. I'm happy for that to be left open for books and books and books. I don't necessarily need closure on everything in each next book.
Yes.
I just need to be sure that I'm catching everything Jim's putting out there. And I think I'm getting there.
Sounds like
I know I'm not there
got
yet.
Details.
I know I'm not there yet. I threw one of my thoughts out into Jake's Discord, and he said, "Oh, you've reached that stage of theorizing." Okay. I'm like, oh. I've got a ways to go. Okay.
That's so funny.
And again, I'm okay with that because I don't want to think beyond the books that I've got.
Yes.
But
same.
So I'm very much looking forward to 12 months when books are announced.
I'm excited to have a little breather because I've been going. I'm excited to have a little breather because I've been going with the series, bit by bit. And so I'm like, all right, I'm excited to take a break, but I've had a break now. And so now I'm like, where's the next
now I want to know.
I just didn't have to break this long.
I have to admit, I did feel much the same when because once I got over the hump initially, where I was struggling with this male gaze, and Jake, again, you're getting a lot of shout outs, Jake, you're doing well, got me over that hump with the audiobooks.
Yes.
And from that point, it had taken me 3 years to read up to book 4. It took me 2 weeks to get to book 6. And I read all the next book 6 through to 17, I read in 12 days. And I was like, oh my God, now I need more.
You have to breathe in between books. You have to eat, sleep maybe.
Said who? You're not the boss of me.
I am going to start being the boss of you. You need help.
But hey, I do this. Hey, I've read Dungeon Crawler Carl 7 times since August. So this is just something I do. When I fall in love with it, I have to binge it.
We have to sleep. We have to sleep.
I don't follow that rule. To be fair, it's more
you can defy me.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes, this is also true.
For real.
I did. Deadbeat, of course, we get Sue, the Tyrannosaur, and that was my point. I was like, I am on the roller coaster. I'm sold. And I
feel like if
texted Jake.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, he just rode a zombie dinosaur into battle.
I know. Yeah, Lynn doesn't sleep either. I'll send her a message before bed. She'll respond. And then I wake up in the morning and she's already been taking care of a bunch of admin stuff. And I'm like, you have to sleep sometimes.
Just fit that in where you can. That's not important. But yeah, I do have a bit of a book addiction. But that was the thing. I was like, okay, he just wrote this scene that is so mental. And I loved it so much because it worked in that scene. Like, it didn't feel far-fetched.
It was perfect.
It was so glorious. I was like, I am in.
Same.
And then
it's my favorite Dresden book.
Yeah. That ending is just magnificent. Talking deadbeat. Who is Cal?
You're back into your questions.
There's so many. There is so much story that Jim knows but hasn't given us yet. And I love that. Again, that's my sense of a good author. There's so much story here that I've still got to tell you. It's like, oh,
I thought it was too. I thought it was in a museum.
It was a skeleton, but it gained ectoplasmatic flesh when Harry gave it all of the energy.
Okay, I forgot about that detail. I always pictured a skeleton dinosaur, like straight fossilized.
This is the benefit of rereading.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, I just need to real quick reread the entire series over the course of 5 days so that I can keep up.
It's there aren't very many series that I can read this many times and still find new things to gush about.
Yes.
And Dresden is definitely deserving of it. Yes, there are issues. Yes, Jim really likes to talk about legs and boobs and sexy things.
All the things.
But he also writes amazing characters and
Incredible.
intertwined stories and things that have history that you might find out later. And he draws from so many different mythologies and cultures. And I love it so much, you know.
Yes.
We have
just making fun of me.
Yeah, you could do reread. Do the audio. Did you do any of them on audio?
I did. The entire second half of the series was all audio for me.
Yeah. I love James Masters.
He is fantastic.
It's a perfect marriage. I can't imagine him narrating anything else. And I can't imagine anyone else narrating Dresden.
Oh, there was one book that someone else narrated.
I was seeing that somewhere that and I would have been one of the people up in arms about it. Going, no, we want James. So the fact that they did end it. So that they re-recorded with James and now that's the only one you can get, I'm okay with. Here we go. Not this one. Yes, reread and then you can hit me with a theory. Yeah, it's and the short stories are fabulous. Some of them are very light. They're obviously, he had a weekend and was asked to put a story in a collection somewhere, and not
or just
a lot of
something the night before.
Yeah, some of them though are very great and actually give us something more toward the main series. And there's a couple that are truly exceptional, and one of them is Zoo Day.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Beautiful pocket narration where we get Harry's story and then we get Maggie's story, and then we get Mouse's story.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my God.
Yes.
This is so great. Loved that short story. Loved it
I did
so
too.
very much.
Had me crying, just unwell.
Yes.
Really, all the stuff with Maggie has been extraordinary. It makes perfect sense for Harry's character. As soon as he realized he was a dad, that would just be the most important thing in the world to him. But at the same time that he would trust himself to be a good dad. And so he's withholding and not sure how to navigate it, but he would give his life and soul and everything for her. But he doesn't know if giving himself to her would be good for her. That conflict within him makes so much sense. And the fact that the Carpenters are the ones that stepped in while Harry was working that out is like the perfect fit. But then he had to be pushed eventually by Thomas. I think it was Thomas that pushed him, and he was like, it was either Thomas or Michael, now I'm forgetting. That was like, you have to be a dad. Like, you have to do it. And he finally, oh man, that scene when she asked him,
one of my love charity moments.
Yes.
When he and Michael are off to something and she says, kids need their dad to come home. And he's like, yeah, I'll get Michael home. And Charity's like, you need to come home. And for the first time, Harry really registers how important he is to somebody.
Yes.
And it frightens him.
Yes.
And the fact that frightens him, I love it.
Yes.
Just.
It's true. I don't like how Master Marsters said and does Toot Toot's voice. I think it's annoying.
Here's the thing. Neither does Masters. He's got to the point where he's like, I started it annoying, not knowing that this was going to be such a big character.
And I love Toot Toot. I think he's a great character, but listening to him on audio is
insufferable. This last reread, he grows from 6 inches tall to a foot tall. He's now a foot tall.
No way! I wonder why.
Well, this is, again, there'll be a reason.
Why?
And I think it's because Harry trusts him. I think there's some kind of energy thing that happens, and that because he trusts Toot and he puts actual faith that Toot can do this,
Sure,
there's some kind of magical fairy energy thing happening, and it's strengthening Toot into like
interesting.
a fairy. That's my.
I don't know. Actually, I think for her and Sam,
it could be the pizza. You're right.
It's the pizza.
But he's big now. So he's big. But yeah, we do get mentioned that not the rest of them aren't. And some of them have been part of this little militia since the beginning. So it can't be just the pizza.
So, answer to the question, is male gaze that bad? Pizza.
Yes.
We've solved it.
But it is.
We stayed on topic. Boom.
Yeah. No, it is that bad. And it deservedly gets called out.
Yes.
The shame is that the flip side doesn't, and that he does write amazing women characters, and the story itself is very strong. And I think it comes down to, can you as a reader accept that this will be part of the story and read the rest of it? That's kind of where I sit with it.
I love that conclusion. I totally agree. Yes, it is that bad, but then there's all the rest.
There really is.
Yes, not bad enough to really derail the series. I agree. It's enough that Lynn and we're on Voxer. And so anytime one of those scenes comes up, we just pop on Voxer, yell a little bit, and then get back to it. and then yell about the rest of the story, because the rest deserves yelling as well. Just the other kind of, like, the excited.
It really does. I think that it's what's the word I'm looking for? It behooves the series to be given as much credit for what it gets right as for the headline of what it gets wrong. Because I think it's unbalanced. But yeah, so there you go. That will be our conclusion.
Awesome. Great ending point. And then there was just like a little middle part where we talked about everything else.
Which was marvelous, because everybody does talk about the male gaze.
Yeah.
And I thought it was important that for a change it would be two women rather than men trying to either go, no, we're not all like that, or yes, we really are. That's not the point, guys. So,
yes. Great discussion. Thanks so much for facilitating this.
Hey, I'm really, really grateful that you accepted, and I've enjoyed talking with you. Don't go away.
Yes.
I do have to gush at Firefly at you for a moment. But
do it.
With that, our lovely conclusion. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to the people who came live. It's always lovely to have you all. And I saw some lovely new people. Lovely to have you on the channel. And for those of you who are regulars, I will see you next time. Everybody watching on replay, who I hope will be at least a handful, I hope you're glad you came. So with that, we're going to love you and leave you. See ya.